Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Criterion Learning Series. Today, we're going to be talking about open enrollment. A couple of housekeeping items to talk about before we dive right in today. So first off, we do have a chat and a Q&A. So if you do have anything, questions that you have during the session today, please feel free to ask those questions, and we'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. And if we can't, of course, we'll follow up with you with those answers when we can get back to you after the session today. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in here. Just give me 1 second to switch around my presentation into the browser. All right, so you should be able to see my browser now. I'm starting off here in self-service, which is certainly where open enrollment will take place for the employees. But of course, as usual, there's some setup things that need to happen first. So we'll get into what it's going to look like for the employees to do it in a second after I set one up here. So let's go over to the configuration of this. And I'm already at the screen here under HR administration, and you'll see open enrollment right here. Now, of course, the key thing to open enrollment is you need to have your benefits set up first, which we covered a couple of weeks ago, setting up benefits. Can't have an open enrollment without any benefits. So that needs to be completed first, and then you can set up one or more open enrollments. So let's talk about this. Now, one of the things you can do, makes it very easy, is if you already have an open enrollment and you like pretty much everything to do with it, maybe you need to do a couple small changes for, this year compared to last year, you can check the box next to one or more existing enrollments, and you'll notice a clone button up here in the top right-hand corner where you can copy an existing enrollment. And like I said, maybe you just need to change some dates and maybe remove a plan that doesn't exist anymore or something like that. So that makes it very easy if you already have an existing one. But I'm going to start from a brand new one. So you'll see here, this is a new one. And of course, the big thing here is that it is per employer. So you'll need to, make sure you have them set up per employer. You can, I'm 99% sure here, do the clone from one employer to the next, but you do need to set up for each employer. So if you have multiple, you'll have that option there. I was already in this company, that's why it's right there. So here you give it the name of it. It could be anything you like. Let's just, for simplicity here, I'll just call it 2024 open enrollment. All right. Here is the group or groups that it will apply to. So whoever is going to be included in this, maybe it's different states or different types of employees, union, non-union, something like that. You'll want to set up those groups that are going to be eligible for this enrollment. They're going to see it in self-service when the dates come around. I'm going to use this one here, but of course you could select multiple if you needed to do that. All right. If you're using a cafeteria plan, so if you have a cafeteria plan, you may want to select the plan that is used for the cafeteria, and where does the balance go if they don't use all of it. So you'll see that, different income codes here. I'm not going to set that up here, but if you're doing in a cafeteria and you need some additional guidance, we can help you with that. Of course, you can always hit the support button here to get help on that. So if you do have a cafeteria, maybe give them $1,000 or something like that. That would be set up the plan, set up the income code that'd be used for any excess if you do pay it out. And then, of course, you're going to test all this stuff out to make sure it's working the way you like. All right, the type. So the type here, we have 4 different types that could be used for this. So I'll just start at the top there. A life event is for a life-changing event, marriage, birth of children, part-time to full-time, court orders, something like that, where the employee is allowed to do an enrollment that's maybe not part of the annual enrollment. They could just kind of do it on demand per se. They have to go through the life event, but then this would be here. When I choose life event, I do have the reason which life events does this trigger. Now, maybe it's all of them, maybe it's only some of them. You select one or more that this life event enrollment would cover. All right, so you can have multiple if, let's say involuntary termination allows them to do something differently than ineligible employees. So you can do that, spelling. All right, so that's what that is. A manual would be one that you're going to assign to people. So this typically would be used, let's say you had you acquired a company and now you've got 100 employees that need to go through your enrollment to, be in your benefits versus the other company's benefits that you acquired. That's going to be a manual one, and you'll see here this button where you assign, and you can do this by a group or selecting employees, and then of course you put the dates that it's going to be open and when the benefits start and stuff like that. That's what a manual one is for there. New hire is for new hires. So new hires, within the first 60 days or whatever your situation is, they would go through this enrollment. You'd put in the start and end date here. Perhaps you're using as a formula like hire date plus 60 or something like that. You could put those dates in there, and then same thing with the start date there. And then scheduled. Schedule would be what we think of as an annual enrollment. It's going to be in December from, the 1st to the 15th, and then the benefits are effective January 1 or something like that. So that's what a scheduled is for. That's what I'm going to set up today. I'm going to just say this is from 5/1 to 5/31, and I'll make the benefits effective on 6/1. Okay. Now, actually, let me do it. I got to do it like this because it is a formula. I could do the formula in here. I could do like, first of the month after, 30 days or something like that. That could be a formula. So I do need to put it in quotes for a date like that. All right. Now, the welcome message. So when the employees are going through enrollment, the very first screen that shows after they select the enrollment is going to be this welcome message. And as you'll see here, you can do whatever formatting you like on there. You'll notice different fonts and so forth I could do here. I can include links and images and things like that in here. If you have the HTML, you can even go into this HTML editor and put in your own HTML if you like to do that. I already have one that I've been using in my demo environment, so I'm just going to copy the entire thing just to kind of give you an idea of what it could look like. So I've got an image, got some text here. You can, of course, edit this text, all these different types of things. So I might want to say like, oh, May 31st, 2024 or something like that. So you can edit this text. As I mentioned, you may want to have, different links or whatever that are in here. All right. Next, any announcements and announcement dates you'd like to put out here about this enrollment. So you'd like to put something out here. What is the date of that? Maybe I'm going to say on 5/1, 2024. Open enrollment starts today. Okay. So you could do an announcement like that. Now, the system does have the ability to send out reminders, and we can talk about that hopefully when I get towards the end in the task scheduler. I set a reminder to say 7 days before the end of the enrollment period. Send a reminder to all the employees who haven't gone through open enrollment. And then 3 days, and then 2 days, and 1 day, or whatever you're going to do. You can set up different reminders if you like to do that. This is not the same as this, because this would go out to the eligible employees versus the reminders go out to the people who have not completed it. All right, and then the steps. So this is where you're going to put in the different benefit types that you're going to have going through this enrollment. So you simply click add here, and you can call it whatever you like. Now, these are my benefit types that I set up. If you were here 2 weeks ago when we talked about this, we talked about how to set these up in the code tables. You set up your different benefit types, and then you put benefits in those types. So I might say health. Now, I don't need to use the same name. I could call it medical, but the type is health. This is the label the in-person is going to see when they go through enrollment. All right. Is there a waiver reason required if they choose to waive coverage? So in this situation, I'm going to say yes. They need to tell us the reason why they're waiving coverage. Now, there is a code table for the different reasons, and you can go through and add and edit your own reasons in there if you like. Now I'm going to add various plans. And what it's going to do is look at the plans within this type of health and allow me to add them into my enrollment here. So I'm just going to choose these 3 plans. All right, I don't really remember what they are, but I'm just choosing those 3 plans there. And I'll go ahead and click save. All right, now this right here, the step description is text that will appear above the selection of the plans. So you may want to have various instructions in here or information about the types of plans. You may want to, have links or something that go off to your different carriers or whatever. So you can do really whatever you like. Again, just like the setup, and we were doing that message, the welcome message, you can have different formatting here. So maybe you want to have like a grid that shows the different plan options or something like that with a comparison of the various plans. Maybe you want to have like a link that goes to the carrier and where there's more additional information or something like that. So you, again, as I mentioned, you can really do whatever you like in here with that text and, put in there whatever makes the most sense to you. So this will show up there. You don't have to do anything. If you don't, they'll just simply be able to see the plans and select them. But a lot of times people want to show a little bit more information. So that's what this option is for right here. All right, and add the other plans, but I click save when I'm done here. Let me show you, I'll add that text here in another one. Let me just do dental as an example. And here I'm going to call it dental. And then I'll add, I'm just going to choose one plan right there. Right, and just show you like an example of that text so you can see what it would look like here. I have a little sample one that I've used in mine. You know what, I have a better one for medical. Let me just right, so you know what? Yeah, let me here's an example of one that I have created in the past. Oops, like that here. Interesting. I'm not sure what happened to my my plans that I set up here. You know what? Something is weird there where to reset this. So what I'm going to do, just to make this a little easier, I'm going to show you a setup that I already have. Because I don't know what happened to my thing here, but it's the exact same thing. It's an open enrollment. So here we go. So this is an open enrollment. I'm not sure what happened to my other one. I think I might have hit reload or something like that, and it removed my stuff. But here you can see an example of these 3 different plans. I made this grid that kind of compares the different pricing and so forth. And you could do whatever you like. You'll see here when I go through an open enrollment what it's going to look like on here. And I have it for like other types of plans as well. So very simple to be able to do that there. You can, in these step descriptions, as you just saw, you can put in links. In fact, let me go to this one where I actually have even more information in here. So this one, because it is, I have this option here, I could do links. So what I did is I just like have a link here. I think it goes off to blueshield.com or something like that. So you can create links there. You just do this link button and you can add those links in there. What I did is I actually designed this outside of this screen just so I could see it all. And then I copied and pasted it in when I made this. So that's how that works right there. So here's one where I've got all of them set up. Just want to kind of give you an idea what it looks like instead of spending all day adding them in here. So you can see here like medical, health savings, flexible spending, etc. So you'd want to add in all the different steps that are possible to go in here. Now, a couple of things. I have a health savings account that I've created that has a eligibility based off of the selection in medical. So when an employee is going through this, they're either going to see health savings or they're going to see flexible spending. So that is in a benefit setup where I basically look at, are they enrolled in a certain type of plan? If they're in the HSA eligible plan, they see this one. If they're not, they see that. So that's how my configuration works. That's not something you set up in open enrollment. That is something that's set up on the benefit. In fact, let me just show you that. A lot of times we run across this and I can show you the formula. Obviously, I would say reach out to support, but here you see his benefit plan selected, medical HDHP. So that will have an impact when I go through open enrollment. Did I select that plan? And then it shows that option. So that's what that is for. Just to give you an example of how that could work. But what's going to happen here is when I select or when I'm going through it as an employee, I'm going to see the plans that I'm eligible for. So it's possible you have medical plans you want to list here that employees are not eligible for because of whatever reason. It's like you said, maybe it's union versus non-union or something like that. You want everybody to go through the same plan or same enrollment, but they only see the plans they're eligible for. If there is a grouping like I have here for HSA where it's one plan, if they're not eligible, it skips this step and they don't even see that. So that's how that works right there if you ever want to set up a plan like that. And you can do that for other ones here as well. Maybe you've got like a life insurance plan. And once they sign up for life insurance, it allows them to sign up for AD&D or spouse life or something like that. Again, you can set those up in the kind of what I would call the child plans. It requires the one above it. It requires the parent plan to exist. But that's in the benefit setup. Right, over here on the far right, we have these different arrows here, allows us to rearrange the order that it's going to show when somebody goes through enrollment. So right now, the very first screen after that welcome screen is going to be medical for me. And then it's going to go to health savings if they've selected it, or FSA if they've not, and then dental, vision, etc. If I wanted to move, let's say AD&D up, I could just use these arrows, and then AD&D is going to show after vision instead of after these life insurance. All right, same thing with anything else right here. So you can use these arrows here to move them, and you just go click one at a time to move them up or down. All right, so give you an idea how that works there. All right, the last step after you configure these is going to be an auto rollover. So after you add your steps, then you go into the auto rollover. What this allows you to do is, first off, there'll be a checkbox here. I've already checked it, and I've already configured it because I want to show you what this looks like. This does take a while sometimes to configure this thing because there's a lot of options. But it allows you to say, all right, the original benefit plan over here is going to roll over into this plan if somebody doesn't go through enrollment. So perhaps you allow people to do what sometimes we refer to as a passive enrollment. Maybe they sign a form saying, just carry over all my plans and all my options from one year to the next. They don't go through and sign anything, but maybe you have a form and they just go through. They don't have to do an enrollment. It would automatically move them from this plan to that plan. Of course, they could match exactly like this, but maybe you change carriers and you allow them to do that. When you select the rollover, you'll see here I could choose which plan it goes to. All right, so there's different options out there that I can choose. And then I have to configure it. So what I'm doing is saying, all right, in the original option group number 1, which is called tier in my setup, employee tier, option 1 is going to go to this in the new plan. And this goes to that, this goes to that, this goes to that. So you can see why this is kind of setup intensive, because every benefit is going to have options. And you're telling it the option that you've currently got is going to roll over into this option in the new plan. So you can imagine when you go to something like, life insurance, and you've got all these different amounts or things like that, you need to tell the system exactly where everything goes. So here's another example of that one. Let me see if I got one that's got here. So the tier in my short-term disability, it goes over there. Or let's say this supplemental AD&D. This one's got 2 option groups. Option group 1 is the coverage, and option group 2 is this one here. Okay, so you can kind of see how that works. This does need to be configured for it to roll over. If you choose not to, let's say I didn't want the long-term disability to roll over, I could remove it, but then it just means it's going to stop at the end of the plan year for the existing plan and not roll over in anything for next year. So you would need to configure all of this. And you can see I've got a whole bunch to configure. I won't go over all these things, but you can see how that works right there. And then you're able to save this. Question, does the auto rollover kick in the day after the scheduled open enrollment ends? It does, yeah. So what you would do is you would have there's this daily system task that does need to be set up in the task scheduler. And that would do that. I see Connor's also answering that question, but yes, it does do that. There's a daily system task that must be set up for it to do that rollover. And then it would roll it over for you. All right, so once you have that configured, you can then click save and you're ready to go. Let me just show you an example of a life event one, just because I talked about it. If you do nothing, it means all life events, but you can choose existing ones. You'll see here how I have like different dates. You probably would put in something like, the enrollment start date would be based off the life event date versus hard coding it like this. But you can do really whatever you want for a life event one. And new hire, here's an example of a new hire one. I've used formulas. So you can kind of see how I've done that here. It's only for the people that I have in this group called new hire less than 45 days. And then it's using these formulas to determine when it starts, when it ends, and when the benefits start. All right, so this will give you some examples of those. All right, let's talk a little bit about the task scheduler and the reminders that can go out. So let's add a task scheduler just so you can see what this looks like here. You'll notice the name, of course, I need to put it in here. What is the recurrence on here? So this would be how often do you want the task scheduler to check for things? So you could say, oh, well, let's just do it one time. We're going to put it on a certain date and time. So let's say you're doing your open enrollment and you want it to go out on, the 15th or something like that. You could go ahead and just choose, okay, at 11 a.m. on and put the date there. And this would run on that date and check for something. So you could do that, or maybe you want it to just repeat, so you don't have to remember one year to the next. You just say, "Oh, let's just do it on a daily basis." If there's open enrollment, it's not going to like send them out. It's not going to remind people for something that doesn't exist. But that way, you don't have to remember to do it every year. So you could do that. You just need to choose the start time, and then the pattern would be maybe like every day. Okay, but here, let's go ahead and do this right here. So the type is going to be a system type, and you'll see various system things in here. And then you'll notice right here, open enrollment due date notification. So here you can see open enrollment due date. You want to send the notification. So you would put in a number here. Let's just say 7 days before the open enrollment due date. So they would type in the number, or you would type in the number of days before the open enrollment due date here. So this would be like a 7-day one out there. Now I might want to say, oh, well, let's do a second one for 3 days out. So again, system, open enrollment, 3 days before. So what this will look for is people who have not completed the enrollment when they go through, when the system goes through. And if it's a week from today, let's say it was the 21st, and I put this out here for 11 a.m. on the 21st, it's going to send emails to everybody who has not completed it on today. And, because it's a week from now, it would send out an email to say, hey, you haven't completed open enrollment. So there's a notification that would show up in self-service. So you might want to call this like open enrollment reminder or something like that. All right, you do need to make sure it's active. If you don't make sure it's active, it will not do it by default. This isn't checked. And so you'd want to do something like that. And you could do them as separate. If you wanted to say open enrollment reminder 7 days, and a second one, open enrollment reminder 3 days, and a third one, open enrollment reminder 1 day, you can do all that. So very simple to do that out there. And there. Now you'll notice here it says it's not launched because it's not got time yet. But hopefully I would come back in here after 11 o'clock and it would say success. And then I would see that there and it would put today's date and stuff like that. So let's look at actually performing the open enrollment, how the employee would do that. So I'm going to jump back over to self-service. Now I'm in a different account. It's going to look a little different when I get out to this, because this one is my demo versus my training one, but it won't have that nice image. That's really the only difference. So here you can see my thing. Now the employee is going to go through open enrollment right here. Now, if it's a life event, they of course need to put in the life event first. So here's an example of some life events that I put out here in case you've never seen this before. I'm not going to go into the setup of it, but just to show you what a life event looks like if you've never seen one. What's the date of the event? What is the type of event? Like, you'll notice these different types here, and these are in the code tables, so you can choose your own options in there. Did they put any notes? Did they include any documentation in there? If it is something like, birth or marriage or something like that, who are the dependents or dependents that it's applicable to? And they can either select an existing one or add a new one at the time. So if they, just had a new baby, they can add them right here just by clicking add and filling in all the information. If they've already added that person in, they would select that existing entry. And then what you would do is have a workflow to approve it. Probably you don't need to do that. It's not a requirement to do a workflow, but if you want to check it first, you would have a workflow for them to do that. Let me just talk about that real quick. Workflow, because you probably want one for open enrollment as well. You'd have a workflow to approve it. But let's go through an enrollment just so you can kind of see what this looks like here. All right, so I have my enrollment here. Mine is obviously very long. It's a full year. And first thing you're going to see is that open enrollment welcome screen that I just talked about before. So whatever is here, like I said, it could have links, you could have videos, whatever you want to have, you can see what that looks like right there. We do show the dependents and beneficiaries here and allow them to add and edit them if they need to. So just kind of like as a reminder to them, like, hey, here are your dependents and beneficiaries, just in case you need to double check that information, here it is. And so they can go through and change that if they need to. And then here is the order. So if you remember the order that I set up, this is that same order. And you can see how that is here. Here's that text. Well, not really text, it's got links and stuff, but here's that description of medical. And then when I come down here, here's the actual what it looks like. So this is my current enrollment, and it's showing the plan I'm in and the coverage tier. This is option group 1 with my current contribution, my employer contribution, and the frequency of this contribution. And then here's the option. Now I've already done it. That's why this is pre-filled, because I've already gone through this. And it will remember. So let's say I got halfway through and I quit out because I wanted to talk to my spouse. It will remember where I'm at. And so it will keep these options out here. But you'll see here, like waiver, I made a waiver required. All right. And then what is the reason for the waiver? You'll notice how this is a required field. I can't waive unless I select something. And these are in the code tables. You can add your own reasons there. All right. And here, what is the plan that I'm going to select? Now, you'll see right here how it says flexible savings account. If I choose this one, remember my option in there, it will change this. As soon as I go through, you'll see how it's going to change that to say health savings account. So a little magic is happening behind the scenes, not really, but that's what it's doing there. And then I would choose the tier. In this situation, I'm doing family coverage. Now, I've already gone through it, like I said, so it's already selected those. But if I haven't gone through it before, I would have to select the people I'm going to cover. I would just click add, and I would select one or more people that I'm going to cover here. So let me just give you an example of this. I'm not going to delete everybody, but I would click add, and I could select them all, or I could select individuals that I'm going to cover, and then it adds them into there. Okay, so that's how that would work there. And then because I selected HSA, here's my HSA eligible plan, or I selected HSA eligible plan, here's my HSA, enroll, and then here's my plan. And then mine, what I do is this is a option group here called enter annual amounts, and I've done $2,500, which makes the biweekly amount $96.15. Okay, and then here's dental. I've got a little description of dental there, and again, I've been choose to enroll. This is kind of the same thing every time here, so I don't need to really go into the detail of this one, but you'll see vision and how it's showing that. Here's AD&D. So you may remember I moved AD&D, so that's why it is right here. It could have been at the end. That was all just in my setup. And here I choose AD&D, and there's my multiplier. And then short-term disability. In this situation, I waived it with no requirement of a reason. And then here's long-term disability. And of course, you may have others. If you do have so many that it goes across the screen, it'll just wrap it down to the next level. So if you had, I don't know, 20 plan groups, it might look something like that. Here's a retirement, so you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like. And then finally, I'm going to get a summary of what I've chosen. So showing me my current information and the dependents that I've covered in here. If I did anything with beneficiaries, I would see that. But the employee is able to review all this information and see all that stuff out here. They, of course, can download a copy of this if they like. And this would start off the workflow, assuming you have one configured. So mine has a signature requirement. Let me just quickly show you the workflow, just in case you've not seen those in a little bit. Let me show you my open enrollment one. If I come down here, here's my open enrollment workflow, just so you can see how these are configured. Of course, you'd want to probably do this so that somebody reviews it. If you don't, it'll automatically be approved. So open enrollment is the type. The group that it applies to in self-service is all active employees. Now, you might have different ones for different groups of employees, of course. Multiple approvers. So if I did have one or more people down here, it could do multiple approve. Here's that text you see right here. I confirm my elections are correct. That's that text. And then I require a signature. So they have to sign it or use a saved signature. And then they submit that off. All right, so that's the steps for open enrollment and how that all works. So here you just want to see this as I just submitted it. There's the workflow. I can track the status of this and stuff like this. Of course, the approver happens to be me, so I would approve that probably if I, do that in self-service. All right, so it's been submitted, which means the employee can go back and look at it, and maybe they don't remember what they've done. They can go and look at that stuff, but it's now out here for somebody to approve it. right here. Oops, open enrollment. And as the approver, I can see it and approve it if I'm ready. Okay. So that is, in a quick nutshell, our open enrollment and how that all works there. I saw there were a lot of questions, and thank you, Connor and Patrick, for answering those questions. So let's just share our upcoming Criterion Learning Series webinars. So in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about company policies, which is a new thing that we just released in our last update a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to cover how that works. Then we're going to cover something that I thought we'd cover before, but we have not, which is expense reports. And we actually have a number of improvements, enhancements in our last release. So we're going to cover all that, and we'll talk about that on June 11th. And then it's been a little while since we talked about performance reviews, and performance reviews are now tied even more to compensation management. So we're going to cover those end of June and the beginning of July. So that's our upcoming schedule there. As always, if you have questions outside of what you asked today, you can reach out to us. You'll see our phone number there and email address. Of course, within the system, you can hit the question mark and see those numbers, the number and email address, or just submit a ticket right through there. If you have any questions, if you're working with a partner, of course, you can reach out to your partner and they'd be able to help you out as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you all again in 2 weeks.